This show is produced by the Harwood Podcast Network.
Hi, I'm Cindy Harris, and we love making this show available to you free of charge. If you'd like to help us keep it that way, make a contribution to our Karma Jar. For more information, visit our website. Today I've baked this beautiful asparagus tart. You know, right now at the farmer's market, the asparagus is really coming on. And what to do with it all? Well, I thought it would be fun to show you how to take those spears and turn it into a beautiful tart. Now for making this tart, I like to use a tart pan, and this is a 12-inch pan, and the thing that's great about it, it has this removable bottom, and so when we go to serve this, we just pop it out and the tart is right on top of it. It looks really, really good. So get your tart pan out, and from the freezer, a package of puff pastry sheets. Now, nowadays they carry these in most of the grocery stores, and there's actually 2 sheets in each box, but we only need 1. But you do have to remember to take it out of the freezer beforehand and let it defrost in the refrigerator so that it makes it easy to work with. Now the sheet comes folded usually in thirds like this, and I do want to roll it out just a little bit. So on my board I'm going to dust it with just a bit of flour, and then a bit of flour on top, and a bit on my rolling pin. And because this is a circular tart pan, I'm going to start in the middle of my piece of pastry and I'm going to roll out. And what I'm looking is to make the pastry big enough to fit inside my shell. So that's getting pretty close. I'm going to put my hand under the pastry. I'm going to lay it right inside the tart pan. And then I'm going to press that down up into the sides. And because this has a fluted edge, I really want to press my thumb into the sides so I can get this nice fluted edge, because when I take the ring off, that's actually going to show on the side. If you do have a little area that needs a little more dough, you can just take and kind of patch that. Now because this is a tart, we can take and just use your thumb and run it along the edge of the shell and pull the rest of that dough off, because we do want a nice clean edge. And you just sort of take your thumb and you just press it down. Now you can see our pan is nicely lined. When you hold it, you want to hold it from the edges like this. If you hold it up from the bottom, it'll pop out. I'm going to take it and put it on a rimmed baking sheet. That makes it really easy to move around. And I'm going to place this in the refrigerator while I get my filling ready. Now in a medium-sized bowl, I have 2 eggs, and I do want to add 1 additional egg yolk to it. So I'm going to separate that over my little dish here and add that 3rd yolk, along with 1/4 cup of heavy cream, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of black pepper. And with my whisk, I'm going to whisk this up really, really well. And I also want to have ready a cup of shredded cheese. Now I'm using a shredded Gruyere cheese, but you could also use a shredded Parmesan cheese. That would be really good. You do want a cheese that's got a little bit of a sharpness to it for this tart. And I also have 1/2 cup of some roasted bell pepper. And now it's time to get our asparagus ready. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to choose 12 of them that have very closed tips and that are fairly thin. Sometimes when you get asparagus at the farmer's market, they can be very wide, like this one, which is great for salads and things. But for this dish, I do want sort of thin ones, and I want to choose 12 of them. Now before I trim these asparagus, I need to get my tart shell back out of the refrigerator because that's going to help determine how much of the asparagus tip we use. Now I want to place these asparagus in a circular pattern on the tart. One of the things that's neat about tarts is there usually is some sort of pattern that they do with the fruit or the vegetable. So with the asparagus, I thought sort of a clock-shaped pattern would look really neat. But you do have to trim this, and so I need to look at the asparagus, and I want it to go about halfway right into the middle of the shell. So I'm going to cut these so they're about 5 inches long. So once I get a couple of them done, you see I just line them up and then I just cut them off, and that way they're all about the same size. Now don't worry about having these extra ends. We can use these for soup, or we can roast them up, or we can steam them and put them in a salad. Now it's time to get our tart filling in our tart shell. I'm going to take my grated cheese and I'm going to sprinkle that all along the bottom. And it is important that we get this fairly even and all the way out to the edges. We want to make sure that every slice has a nice little bit of that cheese at the bottom. And then I'm going to take my egg and cream mixture. I'm going to whisk that back up again. And then I'm going to drizzle that onto the cheese. And then I'm going to take my asparagus, and like I said, I'm going to put them almost in a clock. So I like to start with the 12 and 6 and the 3 and 9 position, and then that makes it easier to place the other spears. If you do find that one maybe is a little too long, just pop it up and take a snip of it off. And then you can just kind of go back and arrange them so that they look evenly. You want to make sure that each slice gets like 2 spears of the asparagus. And now I'm going to take my roasted bell pepper. Now these happen to be sliced, but it really wouldn't matter. But what you do want to do is place them so that they are in some sort of pattern. So I'm just going to place a strip in between each of the asparagus spears. And if I have some little pieces, what I can do is just sort of lay those end to end and almost make a little strip out of it. Now if these were chopped, I could just sort of sprinkle them in between the asparagus. That would look lovely too. Now isn't that a lovely pattern? That's the kind of thing you want to have for a tart. Now I've preheated the oven to 425 degrees, and this is going to bake for about 25 minutes, and that tart shell should be nice and puffed and golden brown. Now look how beautiful and golden brown this is. I'm going to set it here. Now we do have to let this cool for about 10 minutes before we can cut it. So I'm going to take my large spatula and I'm going to move it onto a cooling rack for about 10 minutes. Now after 10 minutes, the shell has sort of solidified, and I can go ahead and remove the outer ring. So I've actually put it on a can. And if there are any areas that are kind of stuck, you can just pop a knife in. And you can see it just falls right away, like that. And then when you put it on a platter, because there's the metal plate under here, it will tend to slide around on you. So I just take a little napkin, put it in the center, and then lift that right on there. And then see, it doesn't move around so much. Now if you'd like to try this asparagus tart at home, just go to our website and go to the Farmers Market Gourmet show notes, and I'll have the recipe there for you. And if you do make the tart, please send me a photo. That way I can send you the tart badge. Please join us on Facebook. And of course, if you have any ideas or questions for me, please send me an email. I'll see you next time.